And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the pilot of Stay Tuned. Let's all go to the lobby because it's time for the first installment of Movie Mania. This segment of the show will be a review in which I examine an animated feature film that I watched for the first time fairly recently. It doesn't have to be a brand new movie in order to qualify for this segment, but don't be surprised if I end up covering quite a few of them in a row, since there are very few retro cartoon films that I've never seen before. Though I know this first entry is kind of a cheater choice, since it's not completely animated. It's a movie starring the most iconic characters in animation history who are not from Disney, so it still qualifies in my book. Plus, I've been wanting an excuse to talk about this film for a few weeks now. In case you missed my commercial break transition from the end of last segment, I'm going to be reviewing Space Jam 2: A New Legacy, a quasi-sequel to the blockbuster 1996 live-action/animation hybrid Space Jam. SJ: A New Legacy lets modern NBA legend LeBron James give his own spin on the role Michael Jordan held 25 years ago, helping Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Foghorn Leghorn, Yosemite Sam, and all the other wacky and screwy stars of the classic Looney Tunes theatrical shorts defeat an intergalactic menace at a basketball game. Instead of the wimpy-turned-ghastly Nerdalux, who only appear in a cameo this time around, however, the Toon Squad has to compete against a sentient AI program named Algorithm. Ha ha ha, get it? It's algorithm, but cool sounding. Who has also convinced LeBron's son, Dominic, or Dom for short, to join his sinister team, the Goon Squad. I'm an apologetically huge Looney Tunes fan, so I was going to watch the movie regardless of how bad it turned out. While Space Jam 2: A New Legacy has been bashed by most critics, and I can totally understand why, there's still plenty of lighthearted fun for those who just want a movie to relax to with friends. First, let's get the negative stuff out of the way by discussing the film's most notable flaws. For starters, the plot makes very little sense. The original Space Jam wasn't even close to having an Oscar-worthy narrative, but the premise was simple enough to keep the movie substantial but not confusing. An extraterrestrial tycoon wants to force the Toons to entertain visitors of his theme park, and Bugs challenges his goons to a basketball game, so Michael Jordan has to help the gang win by getting them into shape. Space Jam 2, however, is all over the place with its story. Instead of the Toons needing the help of an NBA legend, it's the NBA legend who needs the help of the Toons, as Algorithm challenged him to a basketball game. Sounds like a fun but uncomplicated way to shake the stakes up, right? Well, it should be, but wait, the Toons can't help LeBron right away because they're all split up now, so Bugs has to reassemble the team by traveling through the Warner Brothers Cyberverse, home to all the other characters that the studio owns. And then LeBron has to try to convince Dom to be on his side, but Dom ends up joining Algoritm's team because LeBron is against the idea of his son developing video games for a living. On top of that, Algorithm adds an extra condition to make the game more of a risk. If the Toon Squad loses, the Goon Squad erases not just the Looney Tunes characters, but all the Warner Brothers characters from existence. You get what I'm saying? This movie is a textbook example of writers throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Any one of those plot points could have made the movie compelling, but none of them are given enough time to make us care about the stakes. In the original Space Jam, you wanted the Looney Tunes to win the game because they'd be forced into eternal slavery if they didn't. But here, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be rooting for. Am I supposed to care about the Tunes or LeBron? I would rather have the movie put an emphasis on the price just one of those two has to pay if they lose, with a risk of the other feeling underdeveloped, than try to balance the runtime between going in depth on both sides of the consequences and fail at making either of them feel important to the audience. Not only that, but the movie's attempts to raise the stakes from its predecessor includes a story that blatantly rips off the plot of the Muppets' reboot movie from 10 years ago. All you have to do is change Kermit and Miss Piggy to Bugs and Lola respectively, then change the other Muppets in that film with the rest of the Looney Tunes stars appearing in this one, and said story is 100% identical to the plot of the Muppets 2011. A once-beloved gang of characters from Family Media breaks up because they aren't popular anymore, but a lifelong fan of the group's work encourages the gang's leader to bring said gang back together. Oh, and the movie dared to pull a fake-out death stunt on one of the main characters. I won't say exactly who it tried to convince you has died, but let's just say that said character is such an integral part of the Looney Tunes franchise, you'll see the reveal of him not being truly dead coming from a million miles away. Even though I've been extremely harsh on A New Legacy so far, I don't outright hate it like many other people do, as there was still plenty I liked about it. LeBron did a fine job serving as the straight man to all the zany mishaps going on in the film. He acts a bit sillier than Michael Jordan was in the original Space Jam, but that's how he is in real life, so it fits.
Why would you do that?
I'm a Toon, Doc. I can survive anything.
I'm not a Toon! No.
Ouch!
I do not understand this world.
Similarly, Cedric Joe does a fine job playing Dom. He really helps sell the idea that he's LeBron's son in spite of them being unrelated, even if the material both actors are given to work with isn't very strong. Also, Don Cheadle delivers a fine balance between sly, smart alecky wit and intimidating manipulativeness as Algae Rhythm, even if he's constantly standing under the metaphorical shadow of previous Space Jam big bad, Swackhammer. To be fair though, nobody can top the legendary Danny DeVito. Additionally, though they are blatant commercialism, it was still cool to see cameos, some of whom with voices, from nearly every single animated property that Warner Brothers owns, including one guest appearance that caught me completely off guard when I watched the film for the first time, simply due to it being an appearance of two characters from an adult animated series in a PG-rated film.
We're done running tests on your Badger thing. It turns out his condition is irreversible. I'll never erase what I saw from my brain. He's your problem now, dum-dum!
But in my opinion, the one thing that saves Space Jam 2 from being a dumpster fire are the Looney Tunes themselves. This movie does a fine job reintroducing their signature blend of off-the-wall slapstick and witty self-aware dialogue to a new generation of kids.
Bam! Shoot the ball! Let's try that again, shall we?
Heck, I would even dare saying that this movie is more faithful to the spirit of the Toons than the original Space Jam was, since it's much less reliant on gross-out humor. You will not see the Toons use literal spit shine to clean up their basketball court in this movie, nor will you hear Porky Pig say that he wet himself. Thank goodness. Also, a special shout out goes to Zendaya's performance as Lola Bunny. In the original Space Jam, despite having been created to add female power to the Looney Tunes franchise, her only real personality traits were being good at sports, being a girl, and being over-sexualized. While I would have preferred the sequel to utilize her personality from the Looney Tunes show, also from 2011, a series I hope to cover in a future installment of this series, Lola's portrayal here is still a major improvement. She has goals and aspirations that don't involve sports now, and she's not treated like a sex object anymore. I like it.
Come on, Lola. This is our big chance. This is LeBron James. How often do you get to play with an NBA superstar?
In there! Done that!
That's a good point. But basketball is who you are, Lola.
I don't play anymore. I spent years training for this. Do not mess it up for me.
Lola! We need your help! This lava is gonna be really hot!
I failed.
A warrior is judged not only by her skills, but by her values. You are now an Amazon.
I am? I am!
Now go with your friends. Help them win this Battle of the Baskets.
I will help you deliver justice to the one they call Algae and save the son of LeBron. Hey guys!
Overall, Space Jam 2: A New Legacy gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me, which more or less puts it on equal footing in terms of quality with the original Space Jam. Better in some ways, worse in others. The story is less engaging and more derivative, but the returning Looney Tunes characters are more faithful to their classic incarnations, and Lola is no longer just the girl of the Toon Squad now. There's enough charm in the film to help you at least partially overlook its many flaws, just like its predecessor. So the movie is recommended to those who want a film to put on while hanging out with friends, especially if they have a strong attachment to Looney Tunes and or the first movie. I still think Looney Tunes Back in Action is the best modern film installment of the franchise. Space Jam 2: A New Legacy is available to purchase on DVD and Blu-ray and to stream on HBO Max. We're not quite finished with the Toon Squad yet, because after the break, I'm going to be discussing a new project of their corporate owners with a very special guest. Until then, this is Jason Stevenson with Stay Tuned on 93.5 KDWC, Delta College Radio.
After these messages, we'll be right back.